of tell me a little bit about who you are, where you come from, maybe a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, Patrick Cain, originally from Buffalo, New York. I've been here in the DC area about 8 years. Yeah, childhood, I always loved music, and I guess that's how I kind of got into the world of which led me to Rhizome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first memories of what drew you about music?
I just remember feeling excited of oh, there's something really happening, something really going on,
Are you talking about like live music? Was it the live music?
Yeah, live music or stuff on the radio or just any kind of sound. I was just really into it as a kid.
Yeah.
So, and I have continued to be.
What were your interests in school?
In school, I was not a very good student. I went in middle school and high school. I was doing a lot of writing and some music playing, but a lot of listening to music and writing and this kind of thing.
Do you remember what you were writing about?
No, I don't really remember. I was doing bad teenage poetry or something. Nothing good, stuff. But nothing good.
Confessing your feelings?
Probably very emo or oh, woe is me.
Do you remember?
Not really. That was never not like emo, but more philosophical or something.
Existential.
Yeah, existentialism. I was into it. I was into that.
Philosopher.
I was actually. I loved all that stuff.
How come? Can you trace where from?
I was a runner.
Uh-huh.
When I was 11, 12 years old, I ran a lot, and I have a natural body for running.
Uh-huh.
So I was fast. Or over long distances, I could run distances. So I ended up training with a bunch of older people in high school and stuff that were more oh yeah, you should check out existentialism or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got into a lot of that stuff, and then just reading.
What were you reading? And what age are we talking?
Actually,
who stands out to you from this part when you started writing? Who inspired you, kind of?
Well, of course, 12 or 13, finding out about the beat poets or stuff that was happening in New York City at that time. There was the slam poetry kind of scene that was kind of popular,
Were you going to New York for this kind of events? Or?
No, but it was in the general, just stuff I would find out about, yeah.
And were you also writing poetry at the time too? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you partake in any of the slams?
No, that wasn't what I was into. That because I thought that was just really people were amazing performers.
Yeah.
And I loved to. Yeah, I've got some stuff on tape actually from a friend through running that made me a couple mixtapes that I just remember a lot. When I was 12, 13 years old.
Mixtapes of poetry?
Poetry, different kind of Gil Scott-Heron,
cool.
Stuff from Saul Williams and stuff like that,
Cool.
Yeah, Amiri Baraka.
Mm-hmm. This is your teenage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, stuff like that,
Cool.
And then found out, when you read and you find more stuff to read.
Uh-huh.
I was really big into reading.
You were really big into reading?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your parents didn't have to sit you and tell you to read like mine had to do. Because I wanted to be running outside at all time.
Yeah, no, I liked reading. I was very happy to do that.
Do you still ever like reading now?
I do. I've been actually reading a lot lately.
What have you been reading lately that's good?
I read some novels recently. I'm trying to get away from, electronic reading on my phone, just endlessly reading articles, or because I'm kind of compulsive about it.
Yeah.
So, trying to get it back into books. some more fun. Do you take in information in a totally different way too?
Yeah.
You know?
You're focused in differently.
Yeah, and it's like your eyes move a lot, just up and down when you're scrolling on a screen, right? Like
Yeah.
you're
Never thought
looking
about
like this a lot, which is a different movement and a different eye-mind coordination than going like scanning back and forth, you know?
it. Yeah. What kind of themes are you? So you're reading fiction from what you're saying.
Yeah.
What are some?
I read a bunch of stuff by W.G. Sebald. It was like
W.G.
Sebald, yeah. He was a German writer, and he's one of my favorite novelists.
Why?
He kind of has this way of making like almost like collage novels, but they're not collagey, but the way that the characters move through them can kind of feel that way.
Like patched up, like
Yeah, like all these
coming
different
together?
stories or like different histories and different,
Oh, I like that.
threads are kind of coming together in this really interesting way, and like a lot of like, intellectual flight of fancy kind of stuff. And he writes a lot about like Jewish diaspora from Germany in the 20s and 30s and 40s, obviously World War II history and the Holocaust and stuff. But it's interesting because he never actually talks about any of that, like the war or the Holocaust in any of his novels, but they're all basically about that time in history.
So he just talks about the other experiences.
Yeah,
in
like
that
people
time.
people being lost from their homeland, people, the one book is called The Immigrants, which is very, very amazing book. Yeah,
So
kind of changing.
you're reading, and it sounds like you're interested in this kind of stories of kind of like marginalized groups in many ways.
Yeah. I mean, his writing is specifically. I mean, that's just that one book. His other book is like, his other books are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I read this a book by a South African novelist, Jam Coetzee, which is also an interesting. That was a very brutal book, though.
It was a brutal book.
Yeah.
They be that way sometimes.
I know. I was like, oh God, whoa.
No, my comment was more like referencing the other authors you've mentioned, kind of the beat poets, and Amiri Baraka and Jill Scott Heron you mentioned. So it's a lot of that media is that of like sort of marginalized folks, right?
Oh yeah,
Marginalized
for
groups.
sure.
So just interested.
I mean, that's a huge discussion, but it seems that it's always the best expression.
Tell me more.
I don't know. Well, like
We're only looking through things through your glance. So tell me as
Sure.
you feel. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just as evidence of like, oppressed people in America, black and brown people in America who are oppressed that are also like have made many of the most important contributions to our society. So I don't know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't.
Why do you find? Why do you particularly seek these stories? Do you think? How do they speak to you?
Well, those were just I was into those books. I don't know. I wanted to read those ones. But yeah, I don't have
I'm
a.
generalizing, but I feel like for me at least, I definitely have a particular style of read. I go all over, definitely. Similar to you, also try to read a lot of international authors. But it's definitely a specific tone of conversation and specific topics that I am particularly interested in. So wondering, ignore me. It's all about you. That was the question. But it makes sense. So you were saying music started to make kind of moves into your life in teenage years? Or?
Yeah. And dancing. I was really into dancing.
You were dancing?
Yes,
what
I
kind
love.
of dance?
I mean, I just like moving my body, I guess. So.
Were you having school dances,
so I'm
or?
no, not school dances. Like
Yeah.
no, I was into like. I started working when I was like 14. Like I had a dishwashing job.
Well, how come? That's early.
Yeah. I was just like into it.
Nice.
And I worked in restaurants and stuff when I was a teenager, but I also loved going to like live concerts.
This was in Buffalo?
Yeah, in Buffalo, New York. And in Buffalo, New York at that time, like all ages shows that you could go to were often like, you could either go to like punk, hardcore shows, or you could go to like hippie jam band shows. And I really loved the hippie band, like jam band stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't really go with the punks too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was into that kind of thing in the late 90s. And also like, the fun, there was some, I guess I feel like, wow, it's just really always encroaching, just the development. Just can't let anything be. Just insane.
Actually, those men yesterday were taking a break and napping under the tree here.
Oh, that is so nice.
I know, but soon those trees will be cut.
I know. Yeah, this one's given up on us too.
Yeah, I just noticed that one is dead.
Yes, very. But yeah. So that's how I got in, and that was really a gateway to a lot of music that, I've continued to love, like free jazz music, improvised, a lot of jam band music was like heavy on like improvisation, not exactly what I would, be into now at this point in my life, but it was definitely like an interesting gateway into a live music experience.
So do you remember when you started actually creating music yourself?
Well, I always wanted to and would do stuff with tapes, dubbing tapes together or writing, like making mixtapes, poetry, sound collages and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's like the first
We have that in common. Everything I make is a collage.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. And then.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm right here.
Hey.
Where you been, man?
Hiding out.
You got the whole van shade off on me.
Oh, I know. It was driving me crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Is that? Yeah, it is.
It was driving me crazy.
Your
Your
when
mustache
he
is
came
very,
to,
that was like a
first-
staple for years.
Yeah.
I had it since I was like 20 years old. And I was just like, it just was grossing me out with the mask all the time.
You guys are just being recorded just in case.
Oh, yeah,
I
we're
see. I see. Field recording.
I had a huge beard during the pandemic, like big.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was all over it. And then I took it all off except for the mustache. And I went downstairs and my wife was like,
Nope.
and I was
Start
like,
over.
I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's,
I was dating once someone who had beautiful long hair, and they showed up at my house with no hair one day, and I was like,
Well, what?
"You gotta warn people about things
Yeah,
like this.
my dad had a huge beard all through the 70s. And I remember the moment in like 1980 when he cut it all off. And I never knew him without it.
Yeah.
Like I'd
No,
never
I
known
remember
him
this
without
too.
it. And I remember being like a little kid and just being like, like,
Totally. Totally.
who is in the house,
No, so I had
That
this.
sounds like my dad.
I had the
I'm
exact.
just gonna check on my.
Yeah. I had the exact same experience with my dad, like shaving his mustache right around. And my daughter was also the same. Like she was like, I don't like it. You gotta grow it back. You gotta grow it back. Because I've had it her whole life,
Yeah, that was definitely your look.
Yeah, everything's
It's cool though.
Things changes.
Yeah, of course.
That's what it is. Yep.
Things move. I'm excited to hear y'all play.
Yeah, man. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff is playing tonight.
Oh, so you need the PA and stuff.
Yeah, and
I don't know
also,
what's-
I want to change the erase board. I don't want Jeff to come and see that they put Drew and Martin's name on the.
Oh,
on the
did
board.
I? That was me. They
Oh.
is me. What did I do wrong?
They. The lineup kept changing because there kept being weird cancellations.
Okay,
So it's Jeff. Jeff Carey's playing
that's it.
instead of Martin and Drew.
Okay, so the markers that I used are upstairs in the pink room. It's on the left hand side. So just go get them and correct.
Yeah.
Do,
Is the eraser up there?
Eraser, I've used my hand before. Something, or
okay.
you can use your hand or a
Okay.
napkin, anything. Would you like some tea?
Not right now. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do for food right now.
What is?
We're going to eat. We're not sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you're vegetarian, right?
Go to
That's
Eli.
the
Eli.
What's that?
That's vegetarian. So just
Yeah.
fish.
I'll eat vegetarian too. It's fine.
Yeah.
Olive Lounge is great.
That's that Mediterranean one around
Yeah.
there, right? Yeah. I used to
pretty-
get falafel from all the time.
Yeah, they're pretty good. There's
What is it
something
called?
Olive Lounge.
That Eli is very nice.
Oh,
Very-
Eli?
Yeah.
Is that new?
No, it's they've been there. It's like kind of like vegan soul food. It's really their
Yeah.
cashew mac and cheese is to die for. That's what I had yesterday.
It's like the vegan thing when they try to make vegan taste like
But
other
it's
stuff.
so
like,
it's too good. It's too good. No,
like,
no,
just
no.
give me
they-
the real cheese.
No, fuck that. It's so much better than
There's
the
that
real
Jamaican spot too.
They close.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Damn
Oh,
it.
no.
I haven't been there obviously in a while. I'm trying to think of what else is good.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So this is where we at, huh? Okay.
Are you guys opening or closing today?
I have no
Figure it
idea.
out.
Yeah.
It starts at 7?
I think so. Doors open at 6:30, right?
Something like that. What time is it now?
I don't know, 5:30? 6?
5:33, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye, my friend. We need to continue this interview.
Oh.
Bye
Oh,
bye.
she's gonna put me outside. I don't need to talk to him. Yeah.
I'll see you in a
I'm
bit.
like, I have a notebook here. We have
Maybe
to
your nose right there.
fuck that shit.
Yeah.
They keep
It's
getting in
too
there. They keep
much.
dropping shit.
It's too much. I've been coming to hang out here and take it in, and all day it's like bam, 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 bam.
Finish your notebook. I'm
Okay.
curious to hear the interview.
They're gonna be good. I have some nice recordings. This
Okay.
is one of the last ones.
Okay.
We're talking about
High school, dancing,
dancing and getting into music.
getting into music, wanting to be, going to shows, love that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also found like a community there. Like I didn't really fit in a lot of places, but like, or felt like I fit in. Like
I understand.
I get along with everybody, but I really felt a kinship with a lot of people that were musicians
Yeah.
and
This is
music lovers.
in Buffalo.
Yep.
Yeah. And what time at what age did you leave Buffalo? Sorry, we're gonna continue this interview. You can hear it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're doing an interview.
We're doing an oral histories
Pardon me.
recordings for Rhizome. No,
Oh,
no problem.
pardon me.
Not
Where
at
did
all.
Jamal go?
Think over that way. Where were we at? Buffalo. Oh, when did I leave? Or how long did I stay in Buffalo?
Yeah.
I lived in Arizona for like a couple years in my early 20s, and then I lived in Buffalo the rest of my life until I moved here
When did you move here?
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about what DC was like. Why did you come here? And maybe like reflect on DC as a city for a bit.
Yeah. Well, when I first moved here, the first thing I did was play a show at Lane's house because I had already kind of like started playing music
Where was that?
at Lane's place on I think it was called Heads and Tails Salon or something like that was the name of the house, but it was over off a Long Branch Parkway, which is just a few miles from here. It was actually the first time I ever was in Tacoma Park.
How did you meet Lane?
Well, prior to that, I did a little touring with some noise musicians and had been kind of a little bit active in that scene, so I kind of knew some people and the person that I was playing with at that time, his name was TJ Gordon, who's like a cellist. We knew each other from Buffalo, but he had already kind of like been out on a few tours and had met a bunch of people in the DIY community, so that's kind of how I linked in with Lane. And I think we both played that at Lane's house
Yeah.
because I didn't do any like solo stuff back then.
What year was this? Do you remember that?
Well, it was 8 years ago, so I guess 13.
2013?
Yeah, 2013.
What was DC like in 2013? Aside, so you tell me a little bit about that house music scene. What was it like in 2013, and in general?
Well, there
what
was a
DC
lot.
like?
There was a lot more of that actually. Like a lot of that fall. Well, I moved here like late August, and that fall, a lot of the concerts that I saw were at. Actually, the very first day I lived, the very, very first day that I had moved my stuff here to DC, I went to the Sonic Circuits Festival. Or there was something about the Sonic Circuits. I don't know if it was the festival or it was a fundraiser for it, but there was a lot of people played. And
Where was that? Do
what-
you remember?
What's that?
Where was that?
And well, I was getting to that point.
sorry.
That was actually in the first floor of the Union Arts,
Yeah.
where later Luke would have the third floor space. But that night, I remember seeing Luke there. I think he had a space in the back, and that was how there was room to have this concert there. And I can't remember who played there. I think Black Saturn, a couple other people. I'm sure I could look it up. But that was the first show that I went to, and that was at Union Arts. But Union Arts hadn't officially started the third floor version of it.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Union Arts was also my first introduction to all of this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. So at that time, but that first fall I was here, there was more kind of house venue shows. I felt like group houses that had concerts.
Who was
But that was kind
organizing
of
them?
already. I feel like that was kind of already past its prime. Like that, there was more of that in the years prior
Okay.
to coming to DC, or for me coming to DC. So, and I don't really recall who was organizing those things because it wasn't exactly my cup of tea. There was some of it was fun, but a lot of it was like, maybe like kind of pop punk
Yeah.
or like
Indie rock. Or
indie folk singer,
Yeah.
songwriter stuff.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with
Yeah,
it.
of course.
But yeah. And then the city itself was different, there was even 8 years ago, which is crazy to say, but I lived downtown at that time and actually lived back kind of in the same neighborhood now and was a gardener. So I was around that neighborhood all over the place in Shaw and like Capitol Hill, that area. And yeah, it's just changed so much, like especially right around where Union Arts was. That was
Where
like
Union Market is today, right?
yeah, where
Yeah.
they've now manufactured a
my
whole
God.
new city inside of a city.
I was there yesterday. It's insane out there.
Yeah, it's
now.
insane. I mean, I remember very clearly, like there was when the Burger King was still there, and there was nothing anywhere around there. Basically, from the Noma Metro all the way to walk out to Union Arts, or back the other way too. But now there's I don't know. It seems like 10,000 or more new apartments. It's crazy.
Yeah, that area is just even from there past to going to Brookland. That whole area has developed like crazily just in the past 2 years since I've been gone.
Yep.
Let's see.
So that's how. Yeah, that's the big change. That's how it was. It was more low key when I first moved here, I feel like. And then Union Arts kind of got stuff going, really, And a lot of what the work Luke was doing. Hey, Jeff?
how's it going, Keith?
Really good.
Oh, I've been interrupting the recording.
It's okay. We're
Yeah.
doing a oral histories interview,
Oh, okay.
so you'll be a part of it now. Okay, so we talked. So let's talk a little bit like Union Arts, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that community, how that evolved from what you remember, because I know that's like kind of a lot of folks from there came to Rhizome. So maybe you can tell me that story a little bit from your experience.
I mean, I was not really aware with the formation or the like how Union Arts was working in general. I mean, I just was going to see concerts there because obviously Luke was bringing in a lot of, I mean, amazing acts, you know, and there's a lot of, there was no real place to play in DC, you know, that had a good sound system that could have, you know, 50 or more people in for a kind of DIY space. So, you know, it was mostly what Luke was doing, and then we started forming, you know, because there was a lot of improvised music, and also people could book there too, or try and set up a show through Luke. Then, you know, that kind of brought people together. Like Lane would get contacted, you know, through his DIY, you know, network or whatever.
Yeah.
And then things would happen there. And then there would be a need for local people to open, you know, and that's kind of how a lot of things came together. Also, Josh Levi was doing a lot of stuff too at Union Arts, putting gigs on, which he, you know, ended up doing here as well.
Yeah. What kind of sounds were you creating at the time?
Well, when I first moved here, I was doing a lot more like tape, noise, and mixer feedback and stuff. And yeah.
Were you making those solo, or were you?
No, always. I was always into like the improv, like noise improv, like non-idiomatic noise improv or something like that. Like not necessarily free jazz or, you know, European, you know, kind of formalized improv music or anything. Kind of more in the American weirdo, outsider kind of vein or whatever.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Actually, what is that? What is the weirdo outsider American thing?
Well, I guess, you know, like there's, I mean, it goes back kind of far. Like, I guess even like John Cage or Harry Partch, Harry Smith, like Moondog. There's all sorts of artists that are just kind of outsiders that are doing their own thing. David Tudor, all sorts of, you know, stuff like that. And then even bands like Wolf Eyes or, you know, C. Spencer, There was like a whole Midwest noise scene that was informed by free jazz and, you know, 70s electronics and stuff like that. That was, you know, becoming, you know, a new thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that vein, you know, like junk and, you know, nothing like, you know, not like, oh yeah, laptop free improv noise music or something, you know, like, I find there to be a difference between, you know, those types of expression. Or like how more, you know, some people come at it from a free jazz, like, you know, Luke and Jamal tonight will be, you know, more like in the free jazz continuum rather than like noise or, you know, just weird.
What about noise speaks to you? That kind of experience?
Well, I just like that it. I like when things are direct and, you know, are used to create an effect, you know, in the listener, you know, or just more direct and in happening now, just like how the world's happening now, you know. Like, I guess that's what I always liked about it.
Yeah.
It's only once. It only happens once. I mean, some of it's terrible, you know.
Absolutely.
But then there's like so much stuff that's really amazing.
Yeah.
That's been.
How did that bridge happen for you from that to, I know you create also visuals for performances. So like, how did the visual element come into the picture?
Well, actually, my friend from Buffalo, Jax, was who was also part of the original Maple House Collective.
Jax DeLuca.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That she was, you know, she didn't really stick around too long because she was busy with other stuff, you know, kind of whatever. But we were friends from Buffalo, and she was the director of a media arts center, and was, you know, just kind of always encouraging me to come in, work on stuff. And then one year I applied and got like an artist in residency at that film center, and
In Buffalo.
in Buffalo. So, and then I used that time to learn how to edit video, and there was all sorts of, you know, stuff you know, tools that I could use. It was like a 6-month residency.
Oh, that's amazing.
I could use, the studio at any time I wanted.
Nice.
So I really, and there's a lot of, you know, historically in Buffalo, actually, there's a lot of,
What's the name of
you
your
know,
series there?
there's a lot of history with media arts in Buffalo. From the University of Buffalo, there was like,
Oh, okay. There's a big program.
yeah, the name is escaping me, but there's, they got all these filmmakers like Paul Sherritt's, Woody and Stana Velsuco, which were like really pioneering media artists, were in Buffalo like in the mid 70s. So there was some like, even when I was young, you know, like I saw my first Paul Sherritt's films when I was like 16, maybe 15 or 16, because my friend's dad was friends with Paul Sherritt's.
Oh, wow.
You know, so they were like, "Oh, let's go see these Paul Sherritt's films," and they're like insane. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen his films,
haven't,
but they're like
I
really
can-
intense. They're super
Yeah.
like, you know, flicker films.
Oh, I understand.
Tony Conrad was in Buffalo, who was also like, I would put Tony Conrad in the like weirdo outsider camp. So yeah, that's how. And it seemed to me that there was an obvious, link between audio and visual performances. And actually, with some of the first shows I played in DC, actually at the Sonic Circuit series with Jeff, I was doing 16 millimeter film, like hand painted 16 millimeter film, and doing live scores for that.
Tell me details about this. What do you mean 16 millimeter? You hand painted?
Yeah, you can like scratch into it or make make patterns.
And you can do that live?
No, I would make these films and then play them, and then play them, and then play live improvised soundtracks to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I thought that was just an interesting thing to do. I don't know. I've stopped doing that because it was too tech intensive for me. I couldn't really focus on the creation.
Yeah.
But I like to do me and Luke, we haven't done our duo in a long time, but that was very fun. We had
Tell me about that a little bit, because it was something that also happened at Rhizome. So
yeah,
we
did it here. And that was just a feedback. Well, it was to mirror his feedback performance, with the bass amplifier, and I tried to make some video situation that was
also
basically mirroring what the process that Luke was taking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you remember? Actually, before we come to Rhizome, one other question about DC. If you could tell me, how people experience DC. How do you experience DC differently? If you were to tell to an outsider your city here.
My version of DC?
Yeah. How is it different from perhaps someone who just visits the city?
Well, when I first came here, obviously I was under the false assumption, and it's absolutely untrue that everybody in DC is a temporary person. Like everybody's transient. Not everybody stays here for very long. Yeah, which isn't true. There's a really rich culture here. It's just a little bit more buried because there's so much emphasis put on the federal government and politics and tourism and people coming. All the people who do come for like a couple of years and leave, seems like there's a lot of catering to those types of people. Obviously, the types of development that are happening are catering to that person. None of these apartments that they're building are like homes that people want to like stay in or raise a family or have an actual community. They're all just like weird, I don't know, not prisons or anything. I think prison's too strong of a word, but not not really like geared towards like a lifestyle. It's more like a dormitory. I think is the right. It's like the Trader Joe's, That's culture. Like.
Thank you for that. Nobody understands me. I'm like, no, Trader Joe's is the worst. They're trying to like pretend like you can get all the ethnic experiences and all of them suck.
No, they all. No, it's awful, and it's only for bachelors. It's only for like lonely people who can't cook.
People love the fucking Trader Joe's though. Even my sister who cooks, she just gets her produce. I'm like, go to the ethnic.
The produce is terrible.
It's bad.
It's awful.
Their cheese is okay.
Yeah.
So actually, maybe this is a good segue to tell you. So you can tell me a little bit about. So we talked about the musics. We talked about the visual a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the food and your relationship to it, and maybe a little bit about that part of DC that I'm sure not DC and the DMV area that you've introduced me, for example, to pawpaws.
Oh yeah.
So or like how to differentiate mushrooms. I think that's pretty wonderful, and I don't think that is an experience that many have when they think of DC. So tell me a little bit about how that developed.
Oh, that was just my own interest in. I was a gardener. Haven't always been interested in just food in general.
Was that something you grew up with?
No, not at all. I think, I was into being outside as well when I was a teenager, and I started working and I first worked in restaurants, and that was kind of like a way to, not be home, and I love that. And then, I think the foraging and all that kind of stuff, you grew out of just wanting to be outside. And I learned all the tree names, and then I learned a bunch of flower names. And
was this when you were in Buffalo? Or is this something that's okay? So earlier than
yeah, but we live very. I mean, it's different here, but very similar. East Coast.
Yeah.
Forest. So and then I mean, it's just
Tell me more.
Going
You've
around.
Made food for us here.
Going around and look at stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just into observation, and that obviously plays into, my why I like to be a part of, a community like Rhizome. It's like, it's something to observe and see how it grows and changes, and
it's kind of unexpected.
And there's always something different, and you never know, and. Use your senses to understand something new. It was like my favorite thing. So,
tell me about some of your favorite memories about Rhizome. Some days, feelings.
Well, it's hard to even say. Really,
Take your time.
I mean, there's been so many just amazing concerts, times of feeling like community. I mean, I think just the whole project in general is the best part to me, that it came together. I'd never seen like a space that was solely committed to DIY, underrepresented, small art creators. That was outside of the stream of an institution. That was also like high functioning and nice to be at. It was like it has been a big part of why I really loved do love Rhizome. And I think also it was always, you know, Steve and, you know, a bunch of other people who started it that really had a, like, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what grows out of
Yeah.
just making a space for something to happen.
Yeah.
And
Just keeping it open.
that's, you know, really, really rare.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people who have something that they need to do or some thing that they think is what it's about, and, you know. But it was pretty amazing that it was, you know, mostly a yes. Like, everybody was like, well, okay, yeah, let's do it, you know. And there wasn't really a lot of barrier to producing an event here or even attending events. Also, I lived, like, when Rhizome first opened, I lived maybe, you know, a mile away. So it was so easy, you know.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
that's-
I'll be
that's
there.
the
I'll
better-
be there all the time.
How far do you live from Rhizome now?
Like, I guess probably like 6 miles.
Okay, not that far.
Not
So you
not
should
bad.
remember
It took me 30 minutes on the bike.
Oh shit! Yeah, you did bike, so it's different for a bike. But it's nice. Sounds like a nice bike ride, though.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your involvement with the space. What have you done? At
Well, I
Rhizome?
was never, you know, to be honest, I'm not into organizations. Dang, looked like that just broke.
Yep, we have it on record. I'm joking. That's fine. I don't know. Our lives are falling apart. The window will break and then
Did it just crack now, or?
it just cracked.
Whoa! Amazing. It's something. It was like a little lamp or something. Just was behind the
Oh.
mixer, and it just slipped.
Wait, that was so
Just
funny.
like an
It
inch.
just went like.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the whole building's
I
gonna be
know,
torn
and
down.
they're gonna.
Or,
fall
No,
well,
and
down.
it's-
moved actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
The. But yeah, I am not a very, like, organizational person. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
I
as
mean,
much
you
as.
are you've been involved pretty closely though, so you
Right,
tell
but
me
in
about that.
in the most informal.
But
you know-
what is formal here? Nothing.
Right, but you know, I never was like. I would never describe myself as somebody who would, like, you know, chime in on the email chain or, you know, like,
No, but
ideas
you,
about.
I know that, for example, Jude was telling me that you did lights for her first show, and I know that you've cooked up food.
Oh, was
for,
always-
like, special. So that's your
Yeah.
involvement. You don't need like.
Right.
Yeah, there are people who are answering.
Yeah,
emails
that's
and
what-
doing boards, but
Yeah, no, that's what I would say is, like, you know, I was more into being involved and offering what services I could provide, or,
yeah.
you know. Yeah, I think Jude's first show, I booked that one, I think, because my friend Tony said, oh, you gotta book Jude, and that's how we met Dre, too. But, you know, that's what I was,
So you were booking shows then?
once in a while, you know,
Yeah.
not like,
Yeah.
not a ton, or,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
once in a while somebody would want to come to town, or a friend, like, mostly just for friends, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people who I could say, like, yeah, you can stay at my house, I want to see you, you're my friend, you know, like, come hang.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was mostly what I was trying to do. And then, yeah, I would try and get the best people I could to play on the gig. And wow, the first time I heard Jude's music, I was like, we gotta have this happen.
Yeah.
Just an
Incredible.
amazing person.
Yeah. They were reflecting similarly about you.
No, that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, wow, I do I mean, that is definitely, I mean, going back, I guess, a couple minutes, like, very special memories was definitely seeing Dre and Jude, Michelle, Andre, and Jude, like, you know, park on the side, and I can remember so clearly seeing them pull up and being like, wow, this is gonna be great. You know, like, they got the right energy, this is gonna be awesome, and it was, you know.
And you are, so, you know, close friends with both of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, Michelle and Jude, although unfortunately I haven't seen either of them as much as I would like
yeah.
the last couple of years, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, things are
Yeah. Transitional times for some.
always big love though for
Yeah.
both of them. And that was and Dre, Michel Andre definitely has played some of the best concerts I saw here too, just because I love him so much. You know?
Yeah. What kind of music?
He's like vocal performance and production, electronic music, but I would say more like vocal performance.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how has the community at Rhizome changed in your time here? How has it evolved?
Well, clearly, like there was a change of there was some change in organization and structure in the last couple of years, and I would say that things are changed in a lot of great ways, and and it's great to see that it's still going. There's still concerts being presented. I know that there was always an idea to have more education and camps and be part of the homeschool community in Tacoma, and I feel like that's with Lane being active in that community, that kind of mission is being fulfilled in more ways now.
Have you come to any of these educational programs, workshops yourself?
No, not really, but my daughter will be coming to the camp.
What is the camp?
It's like experiments in writing camp.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Who is it? Leslie?
Leslie is gonna do
That's
it.
gonna be wonderful.
I know. I'm so excited for my daughter because what a great opportunity.
Oh my God, she's such a badass.
Leslie is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that part of it is really great. I hope that it can continue to grow and continue to become like. I feel like there needs to be I don't know what DC is doing or what they're thinking without, creating some kind of plan for these types of spaces, community centers that are, not just community centers, but places where art can happen, places where people can gather for all sorts of reasons, and in a low-key, non-judgmental, non-policed way, which, I think was the real joy of Rhizome is that it wasn't based on grants and trying to have some respectability or some kind of presentation that would make it good for like the Caffritz Foundation to give us $1 million for programming or something. Like it was just like, no, we don't need all that. We just need to say yes to stuff and make it work,
Yeah. Do you think part of the reason why we've been able to have such like diverse and like experimental programming here is because there's not that institutional support, or is there a way that could be balanced where, they've made things happen, of course, but it's definitely...
Yeah, I think the institutional support should not be, me personally, should be a space and resources support, and that's what Rhizome did well, I feel like. It's a space and with tools and resources, a PA, an opportunity to get people together, which is an amazing resource in this city because there's no space for people, That is low risk too.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like some world-class artist or musician or something. It can just be like the people who are around,
Yeah.
which I think DC doesn't really do well, just helping out the people that are around, and I felt like Rhizome really did, so, and does.
So you feel like it's filling kind of a gap in the DC and DMV art scene in some way?
For sure. All sorts of stuff that happened here that would have just not happened. Straight up. Like, if it didn't happen here, it would have just not happened in DC.
Yeah.
Including traveling artists or, even the bonds that were formed here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that the house will literally be replaced? Will be like lifted up and put over there in the corner. How do you feel about that physical act of displacement?
I mean, I feel mostly numb to it, to be honest. I was like, even when Rhizome first started, I was like, well, if it makes it 5 years, that'd be amazing, because, places just come and go. And I think the only thing that really would be upsetting to me, would be if like the spirit and if we can't carry momentum into a new version of it, or if when the house gets moved, it just loses all the steam. I don't know. That would be the worst part.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, places come and go, but it's the spirit, and,
Yeah.
people putting in work to do it. And you need a place to do that, to
do
put
need
that
a
work,
place,
to put that work in. So I'm hoping that, somewhere, somehow that, and that's the thing that kind of kills me, is like, it would not, some of these arts organizations get $10 million a year for programming or something, but like, just making a building available once, like without rent.
Seems like simple steps, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're not taking more proactively, because this is, especially coming out of like pandemic and this time of isolation, I feel like it's so important to like find spaces exactly, or even like people who perhaps like build those communities to bring people together, and I think outside space is so vital for that. And like finding a space like this in DC, it's near impossible to find space that has this amount of outside space.
Oh yeah, this was unbelievable when they got this.
Yeah, and also I'm just like, we were reflecting with Lane how we haven't really used outside almost at all. Like it was like a hangout spot, but there was never like this concerts outside. There were once in a while like for festivals and stuff, but most of the time stuff was inside. And I think it's just provides a space for so many more people to be able to witness also this music.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it makes it a little earlier too, because you can't be loud, outside late at night. But yeah, we just need more healthy outlets. I feel like that's really what Rhizome to me was personally, and as a community, just a healthy outlet.
Yeah. What are your hopes and dreams for what's next for Rhizome? How can it be? First, we kind of mentioned some of the beautiful things about it. I'm wondering if you see some problematic aspects about it, and what changes could we think of as we start up in this space, because that is definitely happening. We're gonna make it happen.
Yes. Just more inclusion, preference. One thing that I noticed at the real height of Rhizome a few years ago was that it was getting booked up way too fast. Like you couldn't. It was getting too busy, so that things that were happening at the last minute or some kind of opportunity, it lost a sense of flexibility, which I'd like for that to stay, the type of flexibility that, should we just go inside or something? It's fine.
I don't know. I think it's
They have to test the speakers and shit.
I don't know. Do you think it's fine?
Yeah, it's fine, probably fine.
Yeah, let's just continue. It's so pleasant here. I don't feel like going anywhere.
No, I feel you.
Jamal, are you guys testing the speakers? Are you testing the speakers, or are you just playing music?
I don't know. That's them. I think that's Jeff, the engineer. I'm not sure.
Jeff?
Oh yeah.
What the other guy? Yeah.
So,
Hey, excuse me. Do you mind just lowering a little bit? Thank you so much. Thank you, Nasa. Yeah. How should we go about inclusivity and?
yeah, I don't know. Maybe just getting more. Yeah, being able to.
How do
Yeah,
you
I
do
noticed that. I noticed that you really had to have it together to book a show, at some point, which wasn't how it was in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could book something like for the weekend on a Tuesday. You know, and it would just be like, all right, let's do it, and it would be great. You know. And I think sometimes when things become more, you know, there's more barriers in terms of, you know, even that, like, you got to know 3 months ahead of time that you want to get a Friday night for this gig or whatever, or this art event.
Yeah.
That really hampers, like, a lot of what can happen. I feel like it is.
I mean, at least if there were like more spaces like that, I feel like that probably.
Well, and that's the other thing too. It's like, and you know, the name itself, and I don't know if Steve had talked about this or if you talked to Steve yet, but you know, the name Rhizome the idea was always supposed to be that it was just going to be one node, you know, and every neighborhood should have a Rhizome.
Yeah.
You know, there should be one everywhere.
Yeah.
Every ward in the city should have, you know, space that people can interact with the way that they feel like they want to.
Yeah.
You know, and like this one took on a more arts and music bend, but that doesn't mean that other ones couldn't use a similar organizational structure to, or non-organizational structure to, you know, create, you know, fulfill different types of needs or niches, you know.
Can you tell me about your performance on July 1st? What are you doing then?
Oh, we're gonna do just our, you know, the model home, the band thing.
Who's Model Home?
That's me and Nappy Nappa, Devante.
How did your collaboration start?
I just from, you know, knowing music scene stuff, not necessarily Rhizome, but our second performance was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh, it was great. We opened for Twig Harper and Bill Nace, and then we also this was another highlight of Rhizome for me was it was me and Devante. It was even before we were a band like Model Home or whatever. It was me and Devante and our other friend Boost, but we opened up for Morning a Black Star.
I was there for that.
Which was an amazing concert.
I remember that whole day. That was great.
We had a great time playing. I felt like that was the first time I was like, yeah, this is really happening. And then, seeing Morning a Black Star, and there was not that many people here. It was amazing. That was an amazing concert.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, we're just gonna play, do our thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you call your musical genre, or is it genre-less?
I would say genre-less, abstract rap.
Okay.
You know, kind of.
Who does what in the group?
Well, I do like the sound and you know, composition, I guess, or I mean it's all improv music as well. But yeah, that, and then the actually on next Thursday we'll be a trio with a drum producer who does kind of handles like the rhythm section, and then I do synthesis, and then the Nappa will be rapping.
What kind of when you have these performances, do you talk about what kind of themes you kind of will be exploring, or is it more in the moment?
No, completely in the moment.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have usually, because my machines are, I mean, the machines that I use are meant to be, are kind of chaos generating. So there's always like different things that happen. There's really no way to control it really precisely, but yeah, like because they're kind of, you know, you get something going in one way. You know, I practice, so I kind of know what's gonna happen, but not. Also not. You know, so it changes, and I'm reacting like it started out that one way and end up a totally different other place.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all of July shenanigans.
Mhm.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
My hope is that there is more hope for the rebuilding of community after we do all the shenanigans. So
Of
that,
course there will be.
You know.
And I think, I mean, what's going on? How much longer will the? I mean, there's no end date right now, right?
No, it will be probably sometime early next year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was supposed to be July, but I guess it's going through that historical preservation board.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I have a few people who are interested in squatting with me, so if you hear of any opportunities, you let me know. I really don't like the idea that it's going to be moved over there, because that just sounds like both insane and just like.
you know, they did it actually over here too.
They did?
Yeah, when they built these things over here, they took those three small houses were kind of like more far apart
Oh, really?
on this side, and they picked them up and moved them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I just don't understand what their point is. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. All this beautiful mess around us right now is not going to be around.
I know, yeah, but times change too, you know.
They do. And if humans know what to do best, we know how to adapt.
That's
We
right.
adapt.
For sure.
Let me ask, so there's kind of like a big question that I want to also explore. There needs to be, also every time there's a performance, there needs to be non-male performance with each performance, because in the last week alone, there's been so many, like,
Well, that is definitely a major.
musician version of a manal.
A manel?
Like a panel, manal.
Oh, manel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
Monse.
really a problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that was something I always, I mean, that, you know, to go back to improvements, like, we need to be, you know, yeah, figure out ways to inspire more and different voices,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes, absolutely. And I think just like kind of being mindful also of as practitioners, you know, musicians, they themselves need to kind of like contribute to that. That if there is a bill happening, then why are we all men on this bill? Let's invite
Right.
someone who is not a non-male.
Yes, as somebody who's sensitive to that too, it's, you know, it should be that simple, and I hope that someday it is, you know.
Yeah.
Really, that's my goal, you know, that there's more representation and transparency and more people who feel comfortable. I mean, you're one of the few, you know, women identifying people that would be involved and hang out, be at many, you know, a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
I feel like, you
Yeah.
know, even that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that is, or I think there's a lot of covalencies there, you know,
Yeah.
between like, you know, cultural problems, you know, cultural shortcomings, like,
Yeah.
I don't, there's a lot, and it's not solved, you know, easily.
I think it's something that just like will take continuous intentionality.
Totally.
Like in any choices you make, if you're like doing a project, who's doing video, who's doing like States, reached out to a friend of mine who is a kind of native activist, and I asked her for pointers of how to recognize that in DC, and if I can do shout outs to any native organizations, because we're talking about displacement, and we have to talk about displacement, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me, kind of a larger question that I want to be exploring with this is, what constitutes, in your experience, an open and safe space? How has Rhizome filled that niche for you, and how it can continue to be that for you and others? You can take time. This is kind of a big, complicated question.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, as a white male, it's hard for me to understand, obviously, I feel that Rhizome is a safe space. But then, given what you've just said about, concert after concert that are manels, white, predominantly white male concert goers, is it a safe space? And that's hard to answer when you think about it that way, well, it's clearly not for some people, if that's the only people that are showing up.
Yeah, to some events, for sure.
And not that it's
I think you're nonetheless, to be honest with you. Even I feel like in the situations where there have been conflict, I had not confrontation, but one time I asked, I was like, why are all these men again and again taking front seats in the little house, and they're all the same men, and every time, and they don't acknowledge that they should just take a back seat so that visually, as we're trying to welcome people, not as told other people can take the front seats,
Sure, and I mean...
Just simple steps like that, just pragmatic, practical.
Yeah, but then, I mean, that's also hard, because... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah.
I wish it weren't,
But what is, aside from... I think the Rhizome generally is, the safest space I felt.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
Not my home. So
yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, I don't know what safe I mean, there's the politics of safe space, that I guess we need a clarification in terms there too, because I mean, there was the safe and safer space movement that was about around awareness around sexual assault and things like that, which I don't think it doesn't seem like that's not the vibe that Rhizome has created. It's not just in general, that's not.
I feel safe would be, for me, when I say that, I feel that beyond that kind of stuff, I feel like it's more like a space when you can be yourself without being worried that
and I
how
think
you speak or what you think might put you at disadvantage.
No, I think that Rhizome is very much a safe space in that way. Yes, for sure. But then also, like we were saying too, it's hard to define because there aren't a lot of women involved in the performances, or people of color in both audience and performers.
Yeah.
So
We have to keep opening the doors.
So yeah, I mean, maybe I think that is what a safe space is one that's accessible and open and non-judgmental in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
In all sorts of different ways. So.
Is there anything I didn't ask you about? I think I'm actually.
No,
I think we covered kind of our.
I mean, yeah, we've been talking for a long time, so.